Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at some very spicy battles in the Ultra League Premier Cup featuring Stoutland and Milotic. Stoutland is a pure normal type Pokemon with the moveset of Lick, Crunch, and Wild Charge. Stoutland is able to hit both Trevenant and Walrein for super effective damage, and since you do see a lot of them in the Ultra League Premier Cup, that can definitely come in handy. I was able to go slightly positive with this team at Leaderboard Elo and had a lot of fun along the way. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out Stoutland in action in the Ultra League Premier Cup. Hopping to the first match, picking up a tough lead, Stoutland into Shadow Machamp. I save switch into Milotic, and Machamp is actually staying in here. Honestly, I don't mind this too much because Milotic is incredibly tanky. I'm able to absorb the cross chop and start pressuring shields with Surfs. I fire off the Surf, able to grab a shield. Machamp continues to farm up, and they're going to fire off a move. I will commit a shield here because this way I can either get both shields or switch advantage. Opponent is going to switch into Shadow Lapras. I am not able to reach the Hyper Beam. That is quite unfortunate. I fire off the Surf. My opponent lost track of their counts, and they shield a Surf on their Lapras. That is incredibly good for me. Lapras is going to fire off a move. I commit the shield, and it's a Skull Bash. That is a massive shield. I'm going to farm up and fire off the Wild Charge. They are boosted, so this probably won't be enough to KO, but it will do a ton of damage, and then I can bring in Gallade. Gallade will be able to tank the Surf and commit to the Confusion farm down. In the back, they have Shadow Snorlax, and Gallade is about to feast. Close combat, one-shots the Snorlax. In comes Shadow Machamp. Shadow Machamp is able to reach a move. This is a little scary. The question is, can I lick down with Stoutland? In comes Stoutland. Stoutland able to lick down the Machamp, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, leading Stoutland into Walrein. Honestly, pretty happy to see Walrein with this team because the entire team has a lot of play against it. So I am going to overfarm slightly here and then go straight for the Wild Charge, hoping that maybe my opponent isn't familiar with Stoutland's moveset. Wild Charge, able to land, and I'm able to catch the Icicle Spear onto my Milotic. Let's go. Walrein is staying in here. Walrein is going to be able to reach the Earthquake. I would survive an Earthquake, but I am going to commit a shield just so I can keep my Milotic healthy. We'll have to see what they have in the back here now that Walrein is out of the way. My opponent brings in a Nido Queen, and I'm very, very happy that I shielded my Milotic because it appears they are pretty weak to water types in the back. They're going to fire off a move. Honestly, I don't have to shield this. Milotic is quite tanky. I'm going to be able to absorb that damage, no problem, and fire off another Surf. This is going to be doing a lot of damage onto the Nido Queen. Nido Queen lets it through. I'm going to switch back into Stoutland to force them to throw their energy. I want to try and preserve Milotic since it appears they're very weak to it. They go for the Earth Power. I'm going for the farm down, and in the back, they have a Wing Attack Charizard. I'm going straight for the Wild Charge to grab the final shield. Wild Charge grabs the final shield and limits the amount of farm they're going to get. In comes Milotic. This is going to be tough. They have a lot of energy here, but I think I can barely outpace them. Milotic farming up, able to get to the Surf, and that should be game over here because the Surf will just about take them out. They're forced to throw the Dragon Claw, and then Gallade should be able to confusion down the rest of the team. Gallade farms down the Charizard, farms down the Nido Queen, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, leading Stoutland into Crobat. Pretty decent matchup for Stoutland. Thanks to my normal typing, they're not able to go for the Shadow Ball, meaning they're forced to go for the much weaker move of Poison Fang. I'm going to tank the Poison Fang, farm up, and fire off the Wild Charge. This will do massive damage if it's able to connect. Wild Charge gets the shield, and I'm going to save switch into Milotic. Crobat staying in, and they're going to fire off another Poison Fang. Honestly, that's perfectly fine by me. I'm going to let it go. They continue to stay in, so you know what? I'm going to fire off the Surf here and see if we can take out the Crobat. Surf gets a shield. My opponent may be weak to Milotic in the back as they have now double shielded their Crobat. I'm going to commit a shield myself, and I'm going to fire off the Surf. This Surf is going to be taking out the Crobat, and we'll have to see what they have in the back. They have no shields remaining, and they have a Shadow Walrein. I'm going to farm up quite a bit, switch, and catch onto the Stoutland so I can save some energy on my Milotic for later. Icicle Spear does get me low. In the back, they have Swampert. Swampert going for the farm down, but not before I am able to reach a Crunch. Crunch is going to do a solid chunk of damage onto the Swampert. Swampert is able to farm down. I bring in my Milotic, and I'm just going to let this go, hoping they Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon is not enough to KO, and I'm able to reach the Surf. Let's go. Surf is going to get them low. Swampert is able to farm down. In comes Gallade, and they're going to fire off a move. I'm going to let this go. Just the Hydro Cannon. Gallade is able to farm down. Back in comes Shadow Walrein, but Gallade is able to reach the close combat. Close combat will be more than enough to take out the Walrein and clutch the victory. Hopping into the next match, leading Stoutland into Nido Queen. Bit of an awkward lead, but I am going to stay in here to start. I'm going to farm up some energy, wait for them to throw a move, tank the energy, and then save switch into Milotic since I do have 2 better responses in the back. In comes Milotic. My opponent farms up a bit of energy and then brings in Shadow Snorlax. Fairly neutral matchup, but my opponent did give Milotic a bit of an energy head start, which is quite nice. They fire off the Body Slam, I tank it, and I am at the back-to-back Surfs. I'm going to fire off the first one here. First Surf, able to land. I'll throw one more Dragon Tail and fire off the second. This is going to be very close to taking out the Snorlax. Snorlax barely able to hang on. The Dragon Tail is barely not enough to take them out. That is unfortunate. Superpower gets me low. Snorlax is able to farm down. I'm going to bring in Stoutland. Opponent gives up switch advantage, and they bring in Nido Queen. Oh my goodness. I fire off the Crunch. Crunch, able to land. I'm just going to keep farming, wait for them to throw energy, and then farm down with Gallade. Earth Power takes me out. In comes Gallade. Gallade, confusion's down. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Hopping into the next match, picking up a pretty bad lead, Stoutland into Overquill. Overquill definitely a core breaker for this team, as it does very well against both Stoutland and Gallade. I'm going to fire off the Wild Charge, grab an early shield, and bring in Milotic. They have a lot of energy here. I do tank any one move, so I am going to let it through. Opponent went for an Aqua Tail bait. That is incredible. Odds are they're probably not baiting again, so I will commit the shield here, and it is to Shadow Ball, so I'm pretty happy that I did. Opponent is going to bring in their own Gallade. They fire on alignment, giving me an extra Dragon Tail. I will commit the shield. Leaf Blade would do a lot of damage, and I have so much energy on this Milotic. I'm going to fire off the Surf. Surf, able to land, and I'm going to fire off Surf number 2. Do they want to give up that final shield? Surf goes unshielded. They are saving it for the Overquill. In the back, they have Gyarados, and honestly, things are looking a little rough here. I'm going to bank a bunch of energy on my Milotic, and then bring back in Stoutland to force them to throw. They go for the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail does get me low, and they're going to fire off another move. They do not want to risk a potential Wild Charge. That is going to be enough to take me out. I do have energy on Milotic, but honestly, I'm in a bit of a tough spot here. This Gyarados and the Overquill are still very healthy. I'm going to bring in my Gallade. Gallade going for the farm down. They're able to reach a move. This is going to do a lot of damage. They go for the Crunch. In comes Overquill, and I'm going to fire off the Leaf Blade bait, hoping to try and grab a shield here. Leaf Blade gets the shield. I switch into my Milotic, and I'm going to fire off the Surf. I need this to be enough. Surf, not enough to KO. Overquill is able to reach a move. Can I confusion down the Overquill here? Aqua Tail KOs. Gallade goes for the confusion down, but we fall agonizingly short. Hopping into the next match, leading Stoutland into another Dark Poison type, this time Alolan Muck. Opponent immediately save switches into Surfetched, and my guess is that this very well could be a double fighter team. I'm going to shield up the potential Brave Bird with Gallade, and then Confusion all the way down. I do leave down a shield, but I leave with a ton of loaded energy. I'm going to build up to the back-to-back close combats. Let's start to apply pressure onto the Muck. Firing off the first, I get a shield from the Muck, and I'm going to fire off the second. They don't have to shield up the second one. They are going to be able to farm down and leave with a decent amount of energy, but I have gotten them quite low. At this point, I'm expecting it's another fighter in back, so I'm going to bring in Stoutland, use it to absorb energy, and then trust in Milotic. In the back, they have Shadow Machamp, and I bring in Milotic. We've seen this matchup play out earlier before. Milotic does have the tankiness to withstand the counters and at least one cross chop. I'm going to fire off one Dragon Tail and fire off this Surf. This is basically going to be taking out the Machamp, so they do need to start shielding. Machamp is going to fire off another cross chop. I do need to commit my final shield here. Milotic is able to outpace the Machamp and get to the next Surf. This will take out the Machamp, and from here, Muck is just not going to be able to do enough damage. I'm going to bring in Stoutland. They have energy, but it just doesn't matter. They go for the Acid Spray. They are not going to be able to reach their next move. I'm able to farm down and clutch the win. Hopping into the next match, leading Stoutland into Canto Muck. Whether it was Canto or Alolan, I saw a ton of Mucks in Ultra League Premier Cup today. I'm going to stay in this lead, wait for them to throw, tank the energy, and then fire off the Wild Charge. They go for the Dark Pulse, I tank it, and now I'm going to fire back with the Wild Charge. Wild Charge is going to hurt if it lands, which it does, and an immediate save switch into my Milotic. They're going to be able to reach a Thunder Punch, but Thunder Punch, honestly, doesn't do a ton of damage to my Milotic. I'm able to absorb that damage, and then they bring in Gyarados. I'm trying to get to the Hyper Beam. I go for it, but I lose CMP. I think I should barely be able to live this, though. Crunch onto the Milotic. Milotic barely able to survive. Going for the Hyper Beam. Come on, Milotic! But Gyarados commits the shield. That is absolutely heartbreaking. I'm going to bring in Gallade. At this point, I need to try and get an energy lead on Gallade and hope that whatever they have in the back, Gallade can do well against. So I'm going to overfarm here and then fire off the Leaf Blade. At this point, there's not really a reason to shield the Gyarados, so they're just going to let that go. We'll have to see what they have in the back. They have a Dragonite in the back, and unfortunately, this is kind of looking like it's game over, because Dragonite is extremely impressive with Dragon Breath, and I don't have a lot of HP left. I bring back in the Stoutland. They're going to fire off a move to grab my shield. I will shield up the Dragon Claw. I'm going to go for the Crunch, but they make a switch, and they're able to catch it onto the Muck. I decide to Zero Bubble it. They actually commit the shield, but I get the defense drop. Here they stop attacking to let themselves get as low as possible to minimize farm on Gallade, and unfortunately Gallade is not able to reach a move. Dragonite will take me out, and we lose a very close game. Hopping into the final match, leading Stoutland into yet another Muck, this time a Shadow Canto Muck. Same game plan as last time. Stay in, tank their energy, Wild Charge, and then save switch into my Milotic. They're going to fire off a move. I am definitely letting this go. They go for a Thunder Punch, and I'm going to return fire with the Wild Charge. As we saw last game, this will hurt if it lands, and it does, and I bring in my Milotic. My Milotic is going to be met with Trevenant. This is really unfortunate. If my Milotic is running its other nuke move of Blizzard, it can honestly compete in this matchup, but without, it can be a little rough. They fire off the Seed Bomb. I'm going to return fire with the Surf, hoping to try and grab a shield from this matchup. Surf does not get a shield. I'm going to fire off the second one right away. Second Surf is able to get a shield from the Trevenant here. Trevenant looking to farm down. They decide against it as they were getting low, and honestly, that works out great for me. I'm going to let this go. I'm going to wait my timer and then bring in Stoutland and lick down. Stoutland is able to take out the Trevenant, and when they bring in the Muck, I will immediate switch into Gallade. Gallade farms down. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. All in all, I had a tremendous amount of fun with Stoutland in the Ultra League Premier Cup. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is definitely more of a pick for fun than for climbing. Stoutland can hit both Walrein and Trevenant for super effective damage, and honestly, in my particular ELO range, that's basically all that I was seeing was constant Walrein Trevenant cores, so having coverage for both worked out. Stoutland going up against a lot of other picks in the meta unfortunately doesn't do quite as well, and that's part of what makes it a pick for fun rather than for climbing. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is absolutely incredible. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.